update on the officer-involved shooting that occurred today. At 4:41 p.m. today, the Arlington Police Department responded to an apartment complex in the 2700 block of Lawrence Road in reference to a stabbing report. As officers approached the apartment in question, they could see an adult male looking out of a window. Officers immediately set up a perimeter and then began making commands for the subject to come outside. The man exited the apartment with a knife in hand. Officers began to give commands for the male to drop the weapon. The male did not comply with those instructions. At some point during the encounter, the male did charge towards officers, and one of our officers did fire their service weapon. The male fell to the ground and then quickly got up and began running. The officers then began a foot pursuit. During the foot pursuit, they approached an embankment where the male turned around and raised the knife at officers and began moving towards them. During this point, the same officer who fired their service weapon the first time fired the second time at the male. At that point, the male turned around and then ran down the embankment into a field near North Collins. The officers gave chase, and at that point, a second officer deployed their taser. At this point, the male became immobilized and fell to the ground. Officers quickly moved in to detain the male, and as they were placing handcuffs on him, they did realize that he had a gunshot wound. At this point, our officers began performing life-saving measures until EMS arrived. Once EMS arrived, the male was transported to a local hospital where he was pronounced deceased due to his injuries. No officers were injured during this incident. Throughout the encounter, we do believe additional officers may have deployed less lethal options. We are still early in the investigation, but the team leading this investigation will make those determinations. Regarding the original call, additional officers arrived on scene due to the fact that we had been dispatched to a stabbing. They did conduct a safety check of the apartment, and no other persons were found inside. We did contact local hospitals to determine had any subjects showed up that may have been stabbed or injured. And at this time, we have not received any such reports. We will continue to investigate that. In closing, there will be 2 investigations running concurrently. One will be a criminal investigation led by our homicide team to investigate the incident as a whole. The second will be an administrative investigation led by our internal affairs unit, which will determine whether or not policies and procedures were followed during this incident. The officer who fired their service weapon has been placed on leave, administrative leave, as well as the others involved in this incident. At this time, we are not releasing those officers' names. We are still working to confirm the identity of the deceased male. The Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office will identify him and release his information once next of kin has been notified. I can tell you he is an adult black male. And at this time, I'll open it up for questions.
You actually called 911, and can you talk about that initial call regarding the stabbing that led y'all out there at the beginning?
Okay, so our investigators are determining who called 911. That's something that's a part of this investigation. The call text or the person who dialed 911 had basically told our dispatchers that they had stabbed a man to death.
Was that a female or male caller?
I'm not sure if it was a female or male caller, but the caller did advise that they had killed a person and had stabbed them to death.
But there was no evidence so far that anybody has been stabbed to death.
We did not locate anyone inside of the apartment. So that's what the officers are determining right now. We're contacting local hospitals, speaking to witnesses on scene, canvassing the area. Obviously, we'll write search warrants for the location, but we did not find anyone inside the home that was injured or stabbed. it is possible that this person was the 911 caller. This is the same person that came outside with the knife in hand. Officers gave him several commands to drop the weapon and to stop, and in which they did charge toward our officers with that weapon.
How many times did the person appear to be shot and where about on the body?
We won't release where about on his body that he was shot, but I can tell you that our officer fired their service weapon twice.
And hit him twice or once?
I wouldn't know if he had been hit twice or once. I know that he had fired. And so obviously that's something that once he gets to the deceased, once they make it to the medical examiner's office, they'll be able to determine whether the subject was shot twice, once, or however many times.
Any
Yeah.
sign of drugs or alcohol involved?
I wouldn't know that either.
And I know you said you are still working to try to identify this person who was shot, but is there information that leads you to believe this was their apartment that you went to? And I'm asking, on top of that, is there any evidence showing that they lived with someone else? Just wondering if there's someone else living with him who could be a victim of his.
Well, that's what officers are doing. They are, again, that's why they're going to write a search warrant for the location, contact next of kin, just to determine what exactly led up to this incident. Whether or not this gentleman lived in that apartment, that part I would not know. That's what the investigation is for. But this is the gentleman who walked outside towards officers with the knife.
Will there be any follow-up on why the officer decided to use his service weapon and then go to a taser and then back to the service weapon?
I want to be clear, the same officer didn't fire a weapon and go to a taser and then went back to a service weapon. You have to understand that when we respond to incidents like this with someone with a lethal, deadly weapon, we do display, obviously, what's a better word to say it? This is an incident of deadly force. So in that encounter, we would have our service weapons out, obviously. And then because we want all incidences like this to resolve safely for everyone involved, we will also have less lethal options as well, which was done on this call.
Have you had an opportunity yet to see body camera footage?
No.
With the shooting, the school shooting that happened earlier this week, and now this, can you just talk about the toll that, these big calls take on a department, and at what point is it just too much? I mean, how do you get it all done, all the work done?
This does take a toll on us. As you know, yesterday we had a school shooting at Bowie High School where a child was killed. He didn't make it to graduation. Don't believe he made it to prom, and that's really disheartening. And one thing that Chief said during that press conference is that, we all have to take accountability as gun owners. If you own a gun, you need to be responsible for your gun, and you need to lock that gun up because it could get into the hands of the wrong individuals and a child. And in instances like this, it's our job to show up as far as with this incident today to just make sure that our goal is, every day to make sure that we end the call safely and that our officers go home, as well as the individuals involved, the public. And it's just an unfortunate incident with this that the male did not comply with officers' instructions. And had he done so, I do believe this would have been a different outcome.
Could this possibly have been a mental health call, and how does Arlington respond to those mental health calls that you guys get?
This very well could have been a mental health call, which is also something that our homicide team and our behavioral health unit is looking into. Our officers are trained on mental health and encountering those who may be having a mental health episode. So our officers are well equipped. Those that were on scene are well equipped for a situation like this, which is why lethal and less lethal options were used on scene.
Do either officers have any previous backgrounds or incidents with shootings that have been, investigated by internal affairs or?
This is very much so preliminary. This probably happened at 5 o'clock, so we wouldn't know that information at this time. But that's something that we look into as well. I can tell you that It's just unfortunate that the male just did not comply with the instructions.
And the second scene in front of the Tom Thumb, that's where you believe he was shot? Okay.
Say it to me one more time.
The second scene by the Tom Thumb, that's where the person was shot?
I don't know where exactly he was shot. I know that our officers the officer fired their weapon twice. So I can't tell you at which point he was shot. That's also a part of the investigation.
But just, I think just for clarification, the first time though was by the apartment, right? And then
Yes.
he ran away, and then there was a second shot, at least away from.
Away from the apartment, still in the apartment complex. He's running through the apartment complex. We come across an embankment, and at that point, a second shot is fired. Yes,
And he ran north towards, like, North Collins?
towards North Collins. Yes, ma'am.
All right, got time for one more?
I guess, do you know how close this person got to your officer before that first shot came? Were we talking, 10 yards away, a few feet away, within reach?
No, that's something that we're also looking into. That'll all come up in the investigation. So I wouldn't know how close he may have been, but that's something that, all those things will come up in the investigation.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. We'll be sending out a follow-up release with all the information that she provided here